Washington Democrats continue to lie about the Parents' Bill of Rights. It started with an initiative that they approved into law with bipartisan support, only to then this legislative session, the very same lawmakers decided to step up and pretty much completely rewrite it. Now, there's some elements to this that have been changed for the better, but nowhere near the current protections under the law. Democrats just simply don't want to hear from parents who are complaining. They certainly don't want to hear from my next guest, who complained directly to them both yesterday and last week. In fact, last week, he was escorted out civilly by security. Joining me on the line is our friend, activist Tim Eyman. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
Hey, thanks, Jason.
Before we get into what happened yesterday, just take us through what happened on Thursday, because you had your microphone cut off while making a very, very reasonable and valid point.
The room that was there was packed full of people that were against the bill. Yet all the chair did was continually call on people remotely that were in favor of the bill. And so it was completely stacked. You have all these people that drove in on a weekday from out of town, and yet they were prohibited from speaking, and it was just really outrageous. This farce went on for like an hour, and at that point I wanted to do something.
And that something was going up to the microphone, trying to make the point that people should have the right to speak, and then you got cut off and escorted out.
Does anybody else see the irony of that? We have 5,500 people that are opposed to this bill, and you're not listening to them. And they cut off the mic.
Yeah.
And they call over security. I mean, they made my point. It was just a perfect example of the way they're acting down there. They have the votes to do whatever they want, but that's not good enough. They have to make sure that no one is under the impression that anybody's opposed to what they're doing. And we literally have 80% of the people that that want to testify are against the bill, yet they won't let them talk.
And they're lying about it. And it was State Rep Travis Couture who yesterday during a hearing pointed out that the title of this rewrite of the Parents' Bill of Rights pretty much pretends that it's just clarifying the current law, but it's not. It says pre-existing law, clarifying the existing law. But it's not doing that at all. There is existing law. They're pretending that they're making changes so that it can catch up with what the law is now, but the bill itself, the initiative itself last year, that is the law.
That's exactly right. And you're exactly right, Travis, at the devastating question of the staff. I mean, the people, when they signed the petition, wanted to change the law. They did. They had almost a unanimous legislature agree. We're going to change the policy of the law that says the parents are number one, the government is number two. This bill that they're pushing puts government right back at number one and parents probably even lower than number two in the category. When the voters do an initiative, they're doing it because the legislature isn't listening. And here, they're not just not listening, they're going exactly in the opposite direction of what they know the voters want to do, and that's why they slapped an emergency clause on this stuff to block the people from exercising constitutional right that they have to put this on the ballot.
Yeah, and it clearly isn't an emergency, because if it was an emergency, they would have proposed these changes last year before electing to make it law. What do you see as going in the direction of parents, if anything, with some of the amendments that have been offered and changes that have been made to the rewrite of the Parents' Bill of Rights?
Well, very clearly, the Republicans are actually doing a really good job of introducing a lot of amendments, and none of them are going to pass. And we're going to end up finding out where Ferguson stands on this, because it's pretty obvious the House and the Senate are going to pass it. And so we'll see what Ferguson does. But, I mean, it really does stick in my craw. The emergency clause is put on bills that are emergencies, immediate threat to the public health and safety. That's Mount St. Helens blowing its top. It is not eviscerating parents' rights. That is so ridiculous, yet the state senator that's sponsoring the bill said, well, we have to do this in time for the end of the school year so that they know what the rules are. Well, the rules are initiative.
They exist now. They exist now.
Just got upheld by a King County Superior Court judge saying this initiative was perfectly legal and shall take effect immediately. There is no emergency, and yet that takes away the people's right to do a referendum. Now, the good news is Brian Haywood has filed an initiative to be able to overturn this and reinstate the law. But what's so awful about that, it's twice as many signatures required, and the Democrats know that. So that if they were confident in their position, that they thought they were doing what the voters wanted, they wouldn't be working so hard to try and prevent the people from voting.
Exactly. Tim Eyman joining me on the line. How did yesterday's hearing go, in your view?
Better in the sense that they actually allowed people that were against the bill to speak. I spoke against the emergency clause, as you might imagine, and I said I question the motives behind this, and you're not allowed to do that. And so the chair castigated me and said, you cannot question the motives of legislators. And I said, I'm not questioning the motives of the legislators. I'm questioning the motives behind an emergency clause, which is a policy that prevents a constitutional right. I even, when a very articulate pastor closed things out for the people that were opposed to the bill, just magnificent argument defending parents' rights, saying that the government has no right to take these rights away. I clapped 3 times clapping, and the chair goes crazy and says, we will have no outbursts. Now, I don't like Democrats burning Teslas. That is civil disobedience that I don't agree with. But at least they're committed. They believe that Trump is destroying our nation, and so therefore they want to do something about it. Here we are getting our parents' rights stripped away from us, and we're afraid to not be impolite. And it seems to me it's a small price to pay to, yes, security has to walk over and ask me to get out of the room. It's a small price to pay to be castigated by the chair. But if they're taking away our rights, if they're taxing us to death, I don't see the problem in us being more vocal about it and not being so concerned about being polite about it.
At least you weren't, kicked out.
I was not kicked out yesterday. That's true. They did allow me to speak. I was actually very upset that they only called me up during a panel. Why not bring up 2 additional people? There were extra chairs that were right there. It was just weird how they go out of their way to make sure that the fewest number of people that are against the bill get a chance to talk. Yeah. And unfortunately, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the policy. I was just simply highlighting the fact that they're blocking a constitutional right, which is outrageous. They do it all the time to block the people from doing a referendum. It's really outrageous, and I'm seriously thinking of doing a lawsuit challenging this emergency clause because it is abundantly clear that there's no way this is a threat to the public health and safety for this thing to take effect immediately.
Well, and there could also be clearly a suit on how this whole process unfolded with the title, as Travis Couture pointed out.
It's an excellent argument. Now, that's above my pay grade. I wouldn't know how to do that. I'm just a pro se regular citizen with a wazoo business degree.
You're more than that. And I say this lovingly. You're a pain in the ass to Democrats, and I love that about you.
Well, there is that. But I'm just pointing out that, I'll walk into Thurston County Superior Court. I'm going to say this isn't a threat to the public health and safety. There's no way there should be an emergency. The citizens should have a right to be able to challenge this with a referendum. And frankly, some emergency clauses by the courts have been struck down, saying that it's not an emergency. In other cases, famously the sports stadium, they said that was a threat to the public health and safety. So the court's gone back and forth with this bill. I think it's just ridiculous to think we have to know the rules after this has been in effect, after it's been upheld by the courts. We need to have this take effect at the end of the school year when school's already out. Yeah. It is so absurd,
everyone knows,
and it seems to me that's worthy of litigation.
Yeah, and I certainly hope you move forward with it. I wish we didn't have to get to that point, but it always seems like that's the only thing that can stop these Democrats. Is it a fair assessment that the reason why they continue to just flout their power and completely ignore the voters is because, frankly, the voters allow them to do just that?
Actually, I don't believe that because they knew this initiative, the Parents' Rights Initiative, would overwhelmingly pass. I mean, they know the voters were in favor of it. They adopted it last year for the sole purpose of being able to eviscerate it this year, I don't think the voters let him get away with anything. My lawsuit's going to be great, wonderful, and good, but the reality is our savior, and I will call him that savior, will be Brian Haywood, because he is the kind of guy that has the resources and the motivation to save his own initiative with a new initiative that just simply gets rid of the crap that they are about to do and replaces it with the same language that was the first time. The difference is this would go on this November's ballot, and he's going to need a lot of help for people to be able to collect enough signatures. I know firsthand how tough it is to get an initiative qualified, but Brian Haywood's just a real hero, and I'm really hopeful that he goes forward with an initiative that does just that.
Is it possible, and I want to be fair to Bob Ferguson, who I think has clearly attempted to work with Republicans and strike a more moderate tone. He's obviously upset some folks on the progressive side of things, but ultimately it's going to come up to whether or not he's going to support any of these fringe policies, not just this particular bill rewriting the Parents' Bill of Rights, but all of them across the board. He has the ability to veto. Yeah. Is it possible, in your view, that Bob Ferguson says, you know what, this is wrong, they should not have done it this way, it's not an emergency, it is current law, it's been upheld, I'm vetoing it?
You couldn't find a more biased individual when it comes to the evil of Bob Ferguson as Attorney General. However, he is now governor. He saw Governor Inslee be the most liberal governor in the nation. You saw Inslee never veto a single bill, and when he ran for president, guess what? He got 0% of the vote. Ferguson's a very ambitious guy. He sees himself as U.S. Senator, maybe president someday, and just signing off willy-nilly on a wealth tax, on rent control, on eviscerating Parents' Bill of Rights, would that play nationally? Not a chance. And so maybe, just maybe, and I'm going to feel like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football, but he at least rhetorically seems to want to go in a different direction than Inslee did, which is to always be a jerk, to never give the other side a single inch, to always be kind of an absolute ass about it, frankly. And he seems to, at least rhetorically, want to be more polite about it. I don't know if that means he's going to politely allow all this crazy crap to take effect, or if he's going to step up and say no. Quickly, let me add, he doesn't have to veto it. All he has to do is tell, Democrats, don't pass the bill because I'm going to veto it. But maybe he wants the drama of them passing it and him doing a veto.
Or he doesn't want to have the Democratic Party say, pound sand, we're not going to do that, and he doesn't want that to become public, right? I mean, that's also a possibility.
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right. It's a real first test of Ferguson, what kind of governor he wants to be, and it seems pretty obvious that he doesn't see the Inslee model, although he kept getting reelected. The way he conducted himself, I thought, was insanely disrespectful to the, 44% of the people that voted for Dave Reichert. He shouldn't just throw them under the bus. He ought to respect them, at least in some areas. And these policies, I think even he knows, rent control doesn't work. It'll destroy the market. Parents' Bill of Rights, what's wrong with parents having more information about their kids? A wealth tax, which is just going to drive more successful people out of the state. I think he knows in his gut all those things will be negative policy for the state of Washington. Question is whether or not he's willing to stand up to his own party and to his own base in order to do it, and time will tell on that.
Yeah, we will find out. Tim Eyman, thank you so much for stopping by. As always, really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate it.
Of course. You're listening to The Jason Rantz Show. When we